Hello everyone, and thanks for watching Edupedia World Videos. This is the second video of the chapter Simple Harmonic Motion, and we'll be discussing some advanced concepts. We saw linear simple harmonic motion and angular simple harmonic motion in the previous lecture. There's another kind of pendulum which exists, which is called a torsional pendulum. And it occurs when you have a thick rope which does not like to be twisted and produces a restoring torque against the twist. So for example, this is a rope and I have a disc attached to the rope and I twist the disc towards the right. This end is fixed and the other end is twisted in a particular direction. Then obviously the rope does not want to be twisted, so it will apply a restoring torque, and often, as long as the twist is small, the restoring torque is given as minus k theta, which seems natural. If the more you twist it, the more the restoring torque should be. Again, as when theta becomes very large, this linearity does not remain, but for small theta it is linearly proportional. So from this you can do the usual things we did last time for many different types of motions, and you'll finally get that the time period will be 2 pi root of I by k. K is called the torsional constant. And it's different for different materials. So this is one thing I left out in the last lecture. Now let's look at what happens if we combine two different simple harmonic motions. What that means is that a simple harmonic motion is defined by F is equal to minus kx. So two different simple harmonic motions might be F is equal to minus k1x and F is equal to minus k2x, where actually these x's also need not be same. They might be in different directions. For example, you might have a k2y or in another direction. The physical equivalent of that would be, we have an object, and if we apply a certain kind of force to it, it performs SHM in this direction. If we apply another kind of force to it, it executes an SHM in this direction. What will be the motion when we apply both the forces simultaneously, and of course for a particular initial condition? So we can do that for two particular special cases when both the SHMs are in the same direction or they're in perpendicular directions. We won't do it in this tilted case, that's too advanced for us. So let's say they're in the same direction. That means there's a particular object and it is acted upon by two forces, one of which wants it to move in a SHM with a particular amplitude, let's say A1, and a particular frequency omega 1, and let's say a particular initial condition delta 1, and then another force which makes it move in an SHM of A2, omega 2, delta 2. What would happen if we apply the same forces together? Well, first of all, the initial condition matters, and secondly, in this case, we'll assume that the frequencies for both of them are the same. If frequencies are different, the resulting motion would not even be a simple harmonic motion, but if frequencies are the same, the resulting motion will be a simple harmonic motion. Also, since we can always shift delta by a particular amount, I am going to take delta 1 equal to 0 and delta will simply be delta 2. So the first one I am assuming it starts at the origin. That's equivalent to shifting time by a certain amount. We shift time and we take t is equal to 0 at the point when the first SHM would be at phase 0. And obviously the second one would be a certain phase apart from that, that is delta. So from this we'll get x1, that is the motion of the object if only the first force was acting, will be a1 sine omega t, and x2, that is the motion that would be happening if only the second force was acting, would be a2 sine of omega t plus delta. What happens when both the forces are acting? We add up the positions, right? Because F is proportional to X. So if F's are adding up, then X's also have to add up. So X net would simply be A1 sine omega t plus A2 sine omega t plus delta. Right. And it can be written as, I'm sure you can work out the math at home, A sine omega t. So it will be A times omega t plus epsilon, where A will come out to be root of A1 squared plus A2 squared plus 2 A1 A2 cos delta. And tan epsilon will be A2 sine delta by a1 plus a2 cos delta. We've seen these formulas before. A square plus b square plus 2ab cos theta and b sin theta by a plus b cos theta. These are the results which would happen if we add up two vectors. And here we see a nice interesting relationship that the addition of simple harmonic motion in the same direction is just like the addition of vectors. So the first simple harmonic motion we'll take along this direction, let's say the magnitude is a. If the second one has a phase difference from delta, then if this is a1, we take a2 and it will be at a phase difference of delta from a1. The sum, we can obviously use the parallelogram law and draw the sum, and the magnitude of the sum will be root of a1 square plus a2 square plus 2a1 a2 cos delta, and this angle epsilon will be tan inverse of a2 sin delta by a1 plus a2 cos delta. We've seen this before, right? So this is a really nice way of remembering it. Whenever you're adding two SHMs in the same direction, or even more than two SHMs, if we are adding 5 SHMs, then if we draw vectors corresponding to the SHMs with amplitudes denoting the magnitude and delta denoting the direction, then the sum of those vectors will give us the resulting SHM. Now let's look at what happens when we combine two SHMs in the perpendicular direction. So when it comes to perpendicular directions and circular motions, SHMs have a very specific property. So let's say we have a particle moving in a circle. This is the x-axis, this is the y-axis. A particle moving in a circle of radius a with a constant angular speed omega. So at any point its coordinates are given as a cos omega t and a sin omega t, right? Because this omega is this theta is changing as omega t, because d theta by dt is omega. That gives me x is a cos omega t and y is a sin omega t. And this gives us an interesting relationship. If we take a particle moving in a circle with a constant speed, equivalent to saying a constant angular speed, and we take the projections on the x and y axis, those will be simple harmonic motions. And for example, if you take an object moving in a circular speed and you look at it from the side, you look at it from here, then you'll see an object moving in a vertical direction, but it is spending much more time near these two ends than it is at the center, because there is much more length to cover here. And that is the equivalent of saying that the object is slower at the ends and it is faster at the mean position. So this is what an SHM really is, and sometimes SHMs are called projections of circular motions for this particular reason. So let's say I'm adding two SHMs in the perpendicular direction. The first one is x is equal to a1 sin omega t. The second is y, in this case, not x1 and x2, is a2 sin of omega t plus delta, right? So if we want to add these two up, we can write the, if we want to eliminate t, we can write y as a2 sin omega t cos delta plus cos omega t sin delta. And from the first equation, I get sin omega t is equal to x by a. So we substitute sin omega t here. Cos omega t will be root of 1 minus x square by a square. We substitute that here. We then simplify it a little bit, and the final equation you will get, which I won't do for you, will be x squared by a1 squared plus y squared by a2 squared minus 2xy by a1 a2 cos delta is equal to sin square delta. And since there's x squared y squared 2xy hyperbolic terms, you know, if you studied conic sections, that this is the equation of an ellipse. So the sum of two harmonic motions, simple harmonic motions in perpendicular directions, will give us an elliptical motion. Let's look at some special cases of that. What if delta is 0? That means x is a sin omega t, y is a cos omega t. We can see directly from here, or by putting delta is equal to 0 in the equation. From both cases we get x squared plus y squared. This is a1 sin omega t, this is a2 sin omega t. And from that what we'll get is x by y is equal to a1 by a2, which is the equation of a straight line. or we can see that from the graph as well. If both of them are acting such that initially they're at the origin and then they reach the extreme positions together, then initially the particle is at 0, 0. As x increases to the extreme position, y increases to its extreme position. So the motion will be like this. All the time it will move on this line. Similarly, what if delta is equal to pi? You can do that yourself. This will be a minus, and that will give me x by y is equal to minus a1 by a2. And that will be a line like this. So initially they're both at 0 and 0. Then as x starts increasing, y starts decreasing, right? Because the phase difference of pi is there. So when x is at its maximum extreme position positive, y will be at its maximum extreme position in the negative. So it will be here and it will keep moving on this line. What if delta is pi by 2? Now x will be a1 sin omega t and y will be a2 cos omega t, and the equation will be x squared by a1 squared plus y squared by a2 squared is equal to 1. And that's the equation of the standard ellipse with its center at the origin. And we can see that from this as well. Initially, if there's a phase difference of pi by 2, initially x is equal to a sin omega t, that is x is 0. But y is equal to a2 cos omega t, that means y is here. So initially the object is here. As x starts increasing, y starts decreasing. So it moves like this in an ellipse. And I apologize for my drawing. But so this will be the ultimate motion. This is a1 and this is a2, the two amplitudes. Another special case, a subset of this was if delta is pi by 2 and a1 is equal to a2. Then the particle would move in a circle, and we've come back full circle. We started from if it moves in a circle with constant speed, then it will be SHM in two perpendicular directions, and if delta is pi by 2 and a1 is equal to a2, then the total path or the equation of trajectory will be x square plus y square is 1. That is a circle. There are two more things which are not really in your course, but they are mentioned in your book, so I am also going to mention them. One is a damped simple harmonic motion. This is a more realistic case, and you'll study this if you take physics once you get to college, or I think even in the mathematics chapters they teach that as an example of how to solve these differential equations. But it is basically simple harmonic motion with viscous force or drag force or frictional force involved as well. So in this case, the equation is m d2x by dt squared is equal to minus kx minus bv. And minus bv, this extra term, is called the damping force. And we've seen that for fluids particularly, the damping force or the viscous force is proportional to the speed and is in the opposite direction. So you learn how to solve this equation once you get to college, but when you solve this equation, the answer comes out to be x is equal to, for small damping, if this damping is very small, then the equation comes out to be x is equal to a naught e to the power minus bt by 2m sine of omega dash t plus delta, where omega dash is slightly smaller than omega because of the damping. It is root of omega squared minus b by 2m whole square. So the frequency decreases slightly. Also, this is the amplitude a naught e to the power minus bt by 2m. So the amplitude decreases continuously. So with damping, the graph of this would be sinusoidal with the amplitude decreasing. So instead of a graph like this, it will actually be a graph like this with the amplitude continuously decreasing, finally dying off to 0. And that does seem to us to be a realistic graph for what an SHM should look like. Finally, there is something called forced SHM, in which not only are you applying a particular force of SHM, you are also applying an extra sinusoidal force to force the SHM into moving with a particular angular frequency. So let's say we are applying an extra force plus f naught sine of omega naught t. Then if omega naught is very close to omega, then those two SHMs can actually add up and result in very large SHMs, which is called resonance. This completes simple harmonic motion. Thank you.